I've met someone else, Daniel. I think I need some space to figure out what I really want. My wife delivered that sentence while swirling a glass of expensive Cabernet, her eyes avoiding mine as she sat at our kitchen island. She expected me to break. She expected me to beg, to interrogate her about this new man, or to launch into a desperate pick-me dance to prove my worth. Instead, I looked at her with the same steady gaze I used for analyzing mechanical stress points at work, and I answered with a single sentence. I hope he gives you the peace you are looking for. Then, I went to the guest room, woke up the next morning, and signed a new lease. I let my quiet, total absence become the only closure she would ever receive. Welcome to Story Sparks. I am Daniel, and I am 34 years old. For the last year, my life has been a grueling exercise in discipline. I work full-time as a mechanical engineering technician during the day, and I spend my nights finishing the final year of my bachelor's degree. My world is built on spreadsheets, load-bearing calculations, and a very strict gym routine. I am not a flashy man. I am a man of systems. My wife, Lauren, is 31. We have been married for 5 years and together for nearly 8. Until 3 months ago, I thought our only issue was the temporary friction of my school schedule. I thought we were building a foundation. I didn't realize that while I was building the house, she was looking for a new architect. Lauren works in marketing for a local lifestyle brand. Her world is about vibes, social proof, and constant novelty. In the beginning, we balanced each other out, her fire to my ice. But as my degree program hit its hardest stretch, Lauren started getting bored. She started making small, jagged comments that I initially dismissed as venting. "You're never spontaneous anymore," she'd say. "You treat every year like a waiting room." I would explain logically that I had 2 semesters left, that once I graduated my income would double and our freedom would expand. I thought she was proud of me. I was wrong. She wasn't looking at my potential. She was comparing my grind to the fun she saw in other men. The night the illusion shattered, I had just walked in from a 3-hour lab session. I was exhausted, my brain full of thermodynamics, and she was waiting for me with that glass of wine. She told me she felt seen by someone else. She said she felt alive with him. She delivered it with a weirdly irritated tone, as if my hard work and stability were a personal insult to her happiness. She asked for space, but in her mind, space meant me staying in the guest room, paying the mortgage, and being her backup plan while she explored her feelings with this other guy. This is what psychologists call monkey branching. She wanted to make sure the new branch could hold her weight before she let go of the old one. I didn't argue semantics. I didn't ask who he was or what he did for a living. I realized that if a person reaches the point where they are weighing you against a stranger, the competition is already over. I told her I would not participate in a trial period for my own replacement. She called me cold. She said my logic-only brain was the reason she felt disconnected. But what she really meant was that my lack of a chaotic, emotional reaction robbed her of the drama. She needed to justify her choices. I went to bed, and the next morning I began the extraction. I called in sick for the first time in 2 years. By noon, I had viewed 2 apartments. By 4:00 p.m., I had signed a 6-month lease on a clean, minimalist 1-bedroom apartment 15 minutes from my office. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because my self-respect was a non-negotiable asset. When Lauren got home that evening, expecting to find me moping in the guest room, I handed her a folder. I told her I was moving out in the morning. She stared at me like I had spoken in an alien language. "You're not serious," she laughed. "Daniel, I said I needed space, not a move out." "Space from a marriage doesn't look like sleepovers with another man while your husband waits in the next room," I replied. I explained that I would continue to pay my half of the townhouse rent for the remainder of the 4-month lease, as I would never leave her financially exposed, but that my presence was no longer a resource she could utilize. She became hysterical. She accused me of abandoning her. She tried to reframe her desire to cheat as a messy human mistake that required patience. but I knew better. Patience is for a spouse struggling with illness or grief, not for a spouse auditioning a replacement. The movers arrived at 9 a.m. the next day. It took exactly 3 hours to remove my life from that townhouse. My textbooks, my weights, my desk, and the bookshelf I had built with my father years ago. The apartment felt lighter as I left, not emotionally, but logistically. Before I pulled out of the driveway, I sent her a final spreadsheet of the utility transfers. I didn't look back. I moved into my new space, set up my desk, and finished a thermodynamics report that was due at midnight. If my life was going to change, it was going to move forward, not sideways. This is where the gray rock method became my greatest weapon. For the first week, Lauren texted me constantly. The messages started with "This is extreme," then moved to "I miss you," and eventually turned into "You always choose work over me." I didn't respond to the bait. I only replied to logistical texts regarding the lease or mail. I refused to give her the emotional supply she needed to fuel her narrative. A mutual friend eventually told me that Lauren was telling people we were taking space because I was overwhelmed by school. I didn't correct the lie. I didn't have to. The truth doesn't need a hype man, it just needs time. By week 3, the emotional text stopped. She began posting photos on Instagram of wine nights and group dinners, always featuring a man whose face was half cropped out. I didn't check the posts. My sister told me. I told my sister to stop giving me updates. I didn't need confirmation of a fire I had already walked away from. Instead, I poured that energy into my degree. The quiet of my new apartment became a laboratory for my own growth. I was no longer reacting to her vibes. I was building a future that belonged entirely to me. About a month after the move, she finally called. I let it ring once before answering. Her voice was different, hollower, less certain. She asked to meet at a coffee shop to talk about us. When I asked for the purpose of the meeting, she admitted that the new connection hadn't turned out to be what she expected. She said he was exciting but inconsistent. She said she realized she had made a mistake and that she missed the stability I provided. I sat in my office chair, looking at my engineering degree progress bar on my second monitor, and I felt a profound sense of clarity. "You don't miss me, Lauren," I said. "You miss the stability of having a man you could take for granted while you chased a thrill. I didn't leave to manipulate you into wanting me back. I left because the structure of our trust was compromised beyond repair." She tried to argue that marriage isn't about perfection. I told her she was right. It's about commitment. And once you test the alternative while still wearing the ring, the commitment is gone. I told her I was filing for divorce the following Monday. She grew angry again, accusing me of being rigid and unfeeling. I told her she was free to believe whatever narrative helped her sleep at night, but that I would no longer be a character in her play. I hung up and blocked her number, not out of anger but for completion. Many people in my situation fall into the sunk cost fallacy. They think, "I've invested 8 years, I have to make it work." But they forget that those 8 years are gone whether they stay or leave. The only thing you can save is the next 8 years. By walking away the moment my value was treated as optional, I saved the rest of my life. The next few months were a blur of productivity. I graduated with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. 2 weeks later, I was offered a senior analyst position at a firm 3 hours away in a larger city. The salary was 40% higher than my technician pay. I accepted on the spot. Relocating to a city where no one knew Daniel and Lauren was the final step of my healing process. I didn't make a big announcement. I didn't post a winning selfie. I just moved. The divorce moved forward quietly. Because we had no children and no shared property, it was purely an administrative exercise in a no-fault state. My attorney handled the service of papers. Lauren tried to reach out through my work email once, but I forwarded it to my lawyer without reading it. The silence was my closure. I didn't need her to apologize. I didn't need her to admit she was wrong. I just needed her to not be in my log file anymore. 9 months after I moved, I ran into an old friend at an engineering conference. He told me that Lauren had moved into a much smaller apartment after our townhouse lease ended. Apparently, the exciting guy had disappeared the moment the divorce papers were served, and she became complicated and needy. She was dating again, but he said she seemed puzzled by how quickly I had disappeared. She kept telling people she never saw it coming. That made sense to me. From her perspective, I was the stable, predictable one who would always be there. She misread my patience for passivity. She didn't understand that a man who can build a machine with 1,000 moving parts can also take one apart if it stops functioning. I didn't feel happy hearing she was struggling. I felt nothing. And that indifference was the ultimate proof that I had won. Today, I live in a high-rise in the new city. I have a job that challenges me, a social circle that values honesty, and a routine that I actually enjoy. I date occasionally, but I no longer ignore the small red flags of boredom or novelty seeking. I've learned that the most definitive response to being treated like an option is to simply remove yourself from the menu. If you are listening to this right now and your partner is asking for space to find themselves with someone else, I want you to remember Daniel's story. You do not need to scream to be heard. You do not need to fight to be chosen. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is walk out the door and let the silence finish the conversation. Because the person who truly loves you will never put you in a position where you have to compete for their heart. Before you go, I want to ask the Story Sparks community a question. If Daniel had stayed and tried marriage counseling while she was still talking to the other guy, do you think they could have saved it? Or was the move out the only way to save his sanity? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story of reclamation and quiet strength resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps us push these stories of resilience to the people who need to hear them most. And if you haven't yet, join the Story Sparks family by subscribing. We are on a mission to reach 100,000 subscribers, and every one of you who values truth over drama makes us stronger. I've selected 2 other accounts of discovery and justice on the screen for you right now. One is about a man who discovered his wife's secret life through a simple doorbell camera, and the other is a deep dive into the legal and psychological steps to protect your assets before a betrayal. Click one of them to keep the momentum going. I will see you in the next story. Stay focused, stay steady, and never apologize for protecting your self-respect. Strategic closing, conversion focused. Daniel's story isn't just about a breakup. It's about the architecture of a new life. If you want to be part of a community that values boundaries, integrity, and the pursuit of peace, hit that subscribe button right now. Don't be part of the 90% who just watch. Be part of the 10% who belong. Click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.